With
Ashley,
that,
there's a couple in the chat that I want to address first.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Jenna and John. There's a question if there are any county commissioners or other elected official present tonight. And I see Representative Ryer has identified herself here, but are there any city council or county board members that we should acknowledge?
Chris, Lori Halverson is here.
Hi, Lori. Any others? All right, and there's another question here about why the rectangular rapid flashing beacons are being added to the design now, that they were previously requested. And I can address those questions. In earlier meetings, we had identified the need for a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at the Diffley Marketplace crossing in order to get the yield rates that we would expect or need to provide a safe crossing there. It was really a function of the speed of the traffic there and necessary to alert drivers there that the pedestrians are located there. The RRFBs have been added following discussions with our Safe Routes to School team and some of the planning efforts using the Safe Routes to School grant to identify those routes. And while they aren't essential to the safe crossing at roundabouts, they are an added enhancement for those designated routes for the school students. So they were added later into the design process. A lot of that had to do with the Safe Routes to School planning and other research that we were doing on their effectiveness at roundabout locations. I don't have any additional questions in the chat.
and I'm not seeing any hands raised.
There may be a chance that people aren't sure how to raise their hands, so could you please explain that? Thank you.
I believe that is if you go down and hit the participants button at the bottom. At the bottom of that, there is the raise hand function. Shayna, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. I was unclear how to get to that point. My question is to Chris. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. On your one slide, Chris, you were explaining about the RRFBs, that there will be one at the Marketplace, one at Daniel and Diffley, and then the two on Braddock, on Ventnor and Pennsylvania. But I didn't hear you mention that there will be an RRFB at the corner of Braddock and Diffley. Will there be an RRFB at the corner of Braddock and Diffley?
On the west side of Braddock and Diffley, there is a RRFB being placed on the west leg of that roundabout intersection.
Okay, hold on. I just want to move my, okay. All right, so there is one at each of the roundabouts and the Marketplace. And then another question that I had is, who is responsible to clear the snow in the wintertime for the crossings of these roundabouts so that students and people who are just walking on Diffley can get across these crosswalks in a safe manner? Is the priority going to be the school district, the city, or the county? I just want to make sure that people are able to cross safely and that the snow is actually going to be cleared and be a priority one early in the morning and in the afternoons if it's snowed all day while students are at school?
So Russ, do you want to cover that from the city
Sure.
standpoint?
Yep, so the city plows the trails adjacent to Diffley Road, and so we would be plowing the trails across at the crossings for the roundabouts as well. And where they are a designated school route, they are priority one then for trail plowing.
Okay, and so it is the city's responsibility to take care of that and make that a priority. Correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
I
it's the
just wanted to
city's
make sure that
responsibility.
I just wanted to make sure I was hearing you correctly, that, the school district can, take care of what they're supposed to be taking care of with students, busing and everything else, and that you, the city, is going to take and make that a priority so that kids have the safe passage and other pedestrians, bikers also have safe passage, even in the wintertime when we have tons of snow going on around here. Another question that I have, and this is probably for someone in the school district, is I see that on one of your slides, Chris, you said that, or actually you didn't say it, but there was a notation that there's going to be a proposed adult crossing guard provided by the school district. And what I'd like to know is, what is that annual cost to the taxpayers? And, is that going to be built in, or are we now, it seems to me that with stoplight intersections, the crosswalks are built in, and, the RRFBs are great. Don't get me wrong. It's just, this is another additional cost that taxpayers are going to be taking on. So how is that going to be addressed?
So Colin, can you talk about the adult crossing guards in the context of the Safe Routes to School and kind of the background of that? And then I'll give Mary a heads up. I'm going to ask her about the school district cost if she's able to answer that.
Sure, I can start. I think Mary and perhaps Christy could also add on to that, but it's my understanding that the district has committed to providing an adult crossing guard to augment the west side of the roundabouts at Diffley, or at Daniel and at Braddock. Mary, you want to add anything to that?
Sure. And we are taking the crossing guard that we put down by the entrance to the school and moving one of the crossing guards to the west side of Braddock. And then another, we'll be hiring an additional crossing guard on the west side of Daniel Drive. And so, yes, it is built into the cost. It's really minimal. I can't tell you what exactly the number is. Our director of finance isn't on tonight, but I can get that information for you.
So the cost, so you're saying the cost of the crossing guards is implemented and built into this $4 to $5 million project for forever?
No. You must have misunderstood me.
Okay.
No, it's built into the school budget. So they're willing to provide the crossing guards. So.
They are part-time employees hired by the transportation department, and they report for specific hours. They receive an hourly rate of pay, and they are only present on days when school is in session. So currently we have two, and I think what Mary was saying is there'll be one at each of these roundabouts for sure.
Okay. And then, oh, go ahead.
We do have some more questions coming in the chat box that we should get to as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, Ashley, I guess I was just going to add to that, and Mary covered it, that there is a school crossing guard on Diffley today at the traffic signal, because even though there's a walk indication for the pedestrians, there is still conflicts and a lot of awareness that have to take place in order to safely cross the traffic signal. And so they are there at the signal, and that guard, or a guard that's posted there, will continue to be part of the process for the west leg of Diffley and Braddock. And then, as Mary stated, the one that was previously at the school, because that area is changing, would be placed on the other side of Diffley. So it isn't a matter that signals would provide a safe crossing without the crossing guards.
That answer your questions, Shauna?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I do have one more. On another slide presentation that you had, Chris, it stated that the students will be involved in this process coming up this this spring. What involvement are the students going to be allowed or provided? What is it that you're asking of the students specifically?
So that slide that you're referring to was actually some work that we did with the students in February and March of 2020. And in that, maybe I'll ask Ashley, you helped facilitate many of those meetings, but we were asking them some pretty specific questions and got some really good feedback.
Essentially, yeah, we had 2 different engagement sessions with both the middle school students as well as then the high school students, and then a small group of elementary students were also allowed to join. But each of those meetings took place kind of following the open house meetings with the larger public, and it sort of mimicked an open house with all the boards and all the information we had, and the same type of feedback we were asking for at those in the school for the students to see the information and provide feedback too.
I think what Shauna was referring to is that the Safe Routes to School, part of
Yes,
that is
thank you,
engaging the
Cody.
students in the spring.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
I was going to say maybe we can have Colin speak to how students have been involved with the Safe Route to School part and how they will continue to be.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Christy and Cody. Yeah, on the screen on the slide that's currently up, we had some students involved in the workshop in December, working with Mary and the principals. We identified some students to be a part of that initial workshop in December. And then kind of building off of that, there seems to be a lot of momentum based on all the work that Ashley and team had done previously in the year and all the connections that Polly and other school representatives Mary have with parents and students to invite participation from students and families to be a part of the development of the plan as we move through winter and into spring. So specifics to be determined, but it's more of a opportunity for an invitation for involvement as we move forward.
But Colin, the purpose of that involvement is it to gather input? Is it to provide education on what the routes are and crossing information? What's the objective with the involvement coming this spring?
Right. It's all of that. It's to look at potential opportunities for encouragement, education. There's some discussion, I believe, with some of the groups. Can we use a kind of AV department? Can we have students maybe as part of a project maybe develop some a video, for example, that could be used for helping other students and families understand the best routes to get to school based on the infrastructure that's going to be in place at the roundabouts. That could apply to these specific roundabouts. Maybe the county would be interested in using those for other educational purposes. So a few ideas that are currently being thought about, but yeah, it's to build momentum. It's to get some kind of ownership, I would say, perhaps from students and families. Like, this is a plan that we support, we're excited about. We want to get other families and students thinking about walking and biking as this plan gets finalized as we get closer to June.
Thank you, Colin, for
Sure.
stating my question was related to the Safe Routes to School slide. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ashley, I'll start in on the questions here. I think I'm starting here. The north arm of Diffley and Daniel leads to drop off and pick up at Northfield Elementary. Currently, this traffic overflows onto Diffley. How is this being addressed? So with the plan that's been prepared, we've worked with the school architect and the school on the drop-off procedures here. A couple of features that you may notice as we added an S-curve in there to provide additional stacking length within the school site. This provides us a couple additional car lengths. We've also widened the entrance so that the drop-off and pickup line doesn't block motorists or parents or staff trying to get into the parking lot to park. And then we've actually added a few more parking stalls as well for maneuvering through. And then lastly, we correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but we added do not block intersection signs to the plan set so that we don't have the backup into the intersection itself. So we're not expecting it to back up beyond the parking lot entrance to Northview. But those are some of the things that we've done to keep that tail, as the architect calls it, from getting out into the roadway itself.
Yeah, Chris.
Go ahead.
I would add too that the entrance exit today at that east driveway is 1 lane in and 2 lanes out, 1 to go left and 1 to go right. Now with the roundabout and the way we have things laid out here, we now have 2 lanes in and 1 lane out. So if the stacking does get back to that stop sign area, there is a bypass for those people to not block that intersection and still get into the parking lot and out of the way. So that helps too with any stacking backups.
Yeah, read some additional questions in the chat box here, Chris.
Yep. This next one, I'm gonna pitch over to Christy. How successful was the rapid flashing light on Cliff Lake Road been at stopping motor vehicles for pedestrians? I'm concerned that motorists won't stop. Roundabouts favor motorists even with the flashing beacon light.
Chris, the Cliff Lake Road is a city street.
Okay.
We have a rapid rectangular flashing beacon. While we don't have any technical data on compliance at that particular RRFB, I do have some personal experience in there. I'm an occasional user of that beacon, and I've noticed some good compliance when I've been using it personally. I would expect that the compliance rate for drivers stopping at those beacons are similar to what we're going to be expecting here, Chris, and maybe you could state what the expected compliance rate is.
Yep. So part of the questions about pedestrian crossings at roundabouts, roundabout intersections. There's hundreds of them across the state of Minnesota and across the country. As studies have shown, the motorist yield rate for pedestrians at a crossing at a roundabout is over 80%. It's slightly higher on the entrance, slightly lower on the exit. An 80% compliance for a crosswalk is exceptional. That means only 1 in 5 vehicles that you encounter there aren't going to stop and yield for you. 4 out of 5 times that you approach there, the first vehicle is going to stop. That's roundabouts in general. The RRFBs, there are fewer of them out there, and their ability to produce high yield rates is somewhat of a function of speed. The lower the speed, the higher the yield rates. But we do have studies that show that the yield rate is in excess of 80% as well. So that's why we're using the RRFB at the Diffley Marketplace, is because without it, we wouldn't expect that level of yield with the conditions of speed on the roadway there. And then, as I mentioned, at the roundabouts, they're added as an additional enhancement. to an already good yield condition for pedestrians and motorists.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll add to that is with respect to the rapid flashing beacons at Cliff Lake Road, which is by the Cub. I believe that is a 4-lane roadway. Here we will be, the roundabouts have 1 lane in each direction. So the motorist is only needing to address 1 lane of traffic. They can cross to a wide median and then cross the other lane.
The next question is, will there be initial police presence when the drivers and pedestrians are navigating our new norm? I think that's a reasonable expect. We have had members of the police department involved in most, if not all, of our discussions on developing these solutions. And the police presence has been relatively high in this area, and I would expect that, especially with the new infrastructure there, that they're going to want to enforce the behavior that we're trying to achieve. So picking up the couple of violators that they may be able to will send a clear message there.
Yeah, Chris, I might add that is the expectation of the police department. There will be consistent enforcement out there after this project is complete. As a matter of fact, I'll add that our design management team member from the police department is already scouting out areas that they can camp out at the intersections to help enforce any illegal behavior there.
And I imagine you're not at liberty to tell us where those are you?
Nope.
Another thing to add, somewhat a little bit related, is during the student engagement that went on during the project, it was requested by students that how to drive roundabouts and navigate roundabouts become part of their drive, a bit more of a focus in their driver's education. And through police members being on the project team, that is something that is going to be initiated in future driver's education as well too for students.
Right, the next question is, drivers going through the Diffley-Ron roundabout speed through on Diffley. How are you going to enforce the slower speed limit of these roundabouts? So that particular roundabout is 2 lanes in each direction on Diffley Road, and that's why you do see some of the higher speeds through there. The roundabouts that are going to be built on Diffley at Daniel and Diffley at Braddock have a single lane of entry. So that will be a tighter condition. It will be more uncomfortable for drivers to move through or approach the intersection. And then the curvature itself, entering the intersection around the circulatory roadway and exiting is such that you physically can't go, much above 20 miles an hour if you try. Sure, there's going to be vehicles out there that corner better than others, but the traditional, the typical vehicles are designed. That is something, as we design the roundabouts and the curvature through, that we look at in great detail on each approach and each exit, on the fastest path that drivers could take, and we tighten that up the best we can to keep the speeds down. Next question was, has the speed limit on Diffley been reduced to 30 now, or is it contingent on the Department of Transportation speed study? That one I will pitch to Christy. And Christy, you're muted.
All right, I will unmute. So Chris's lead-in is really key because this area is changing in character, and the cues to traffic, the conditions of the roundabouts, the narrowing of the lanes are all giving a different condition for drivers out here than they have today with a 4-lane divided roadway. So we expect, based on the design, that we're bringing speeds down. The actual posted speed limit for the area needs to be determined by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. All county roadways for a speed other than statutory, that would fall in the DOT. It's to the city and county collectively to request the state to come and do that study. Then they will do a review, and the actual authorization for a new speed would be authorized by the Commissioner of Transportation. So we will plan, following the completion of the project work, to have MnDOT come and do a study. Following the authorization, we can then post the full 24-hour speed limit for the corridor.
Christy, is that a county policy that you have the Department of Transportation, or is that?
That is Minnesota state statutes.
Question is, in viewing the map correctly, drivers will be negotiating movement with students on the walking paths and residents walking and jogging during the day. Will there be a neighborhood mailing alert? I guess some clarification on what that alert would be for, maybe.
And do you want to clarify what your question is?
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have students attending that area. I'm closer to Cliff and Falcon Ridge areas, okay? So when I'm over there, the congestion I see in the traffic is morning commutes for people running east-west on Diffley, and the blocks of time for students trying to hustle themselves to get to school, especially the walkers. And then the other times of the day, if I'm over there shopping, it's going to be someone who's dog walking or joggers that you'll see along Cliff, or hightailing it across to cut through to Northfield or go over to the school fields. So you have different customers using those roadways. And I know the neighborhood after the tragedy was highly engaged. And I just want to make sure that once the dust settles, they're given access to knowing. I don't think people will really know about this in a global, so I'm just wondering, I know there was a mailing in the past to the neighborhoods to alert people that you were working on the program, to maybe let people know that this is going to be a reality and happening on a particular date once the construction is over. So that's really what my mission was.
Yeah, we could talk with city, county, and the school district to kind of to get some public notice out when the project is complete.
Sure.
As Ashley mentioned, there are going to be progress reports on a weekly basis getting sent out. I'd be sugarcoating it if I said that people aren't going to notice that the road's under construction.
Right.
It's going to be pretty disruptive. But I think your point is, let's get the information out, how, perhaps how to navigate a roundabout, how to use the RFBs, what to expect with this relatively new infrastructure in this area, and get that mailed out to area residents.
Yes, and one further comment is, with the city, school district, and county in partnership with this whole endeavor, that at some point in time, they are transparent and they make it easy for someone to get onto the city website, the county website, and even the school district for the school sites, for people that may want to have a picture of a link or have some information about how to drive on a roundabout or whatever. So I think there's ways of getting information out, even on the back end once this project is done.
Yeah, if I may, Chris, we, city and county, are working with our communications staff, our staffs, to get the word out. Likely, one of the main ways that we reach people is through our city newsletter. So we'll likely have a few different articles on this project before, during, and after, advertising it and promoting it. So,
thank you.
next question is something about in a previous project, it was stated that vehicular yield rate for pedestrians at a traffic signal is considered to be near 100%. Why is this not what we were being told on the Diffley project? Chris, you want to start that one out?
Yeah, that project in Prior Lake is one that I was heavily involved with. I'm not exactly sure the context in which this information was pulled from, but we do expect near 100% yield rates at traffic signals. I know as we've worked through this project, I think we've covered this ground before, that the configuration of where the pedestrians are and the phasing of the signal creates a conflict during turning vehicles during that walk signal. So I think why are we being told differently on this project is this is a different project. This is different conditions, different pedestrian movements, different vehicular movements. So it's not necessarily an apples and oranges comparison to what the project was in Prior Lake. So,
Question. Oh,
go ahead.
If I may address that, it was listed under the frequently asked questions, and it was about traffic signals in general. This wasn't about a particular traffic signal in Prior Lake. And I'm wondering why the information we were given, we were told 80% is you did not say that that's what the yield rate is at any of the intersections along this route. You just said in general, traffic signals yield rates are 80%. And then I came across this information that contradicts that. And so I just wanted to point it out to the other people.
Teresa, I don't know the context in which I would have said 80%. I will certainly go back and check my notes from both projects.
It's on many, many, many of the documents when you were comparing traffic signals to roundabouts. It's on many of the display boards and documents that we received. That's why I'm questioning it.
Are you referring to the percentage that we expect yield rates at roundabouts?
No, we were told that was 83%, but we were told that traffic signals were 80%. I'm once again just pointing out that it seems that different information has been used for similar projects. And the data seems like, again, the data conflicts with what we were told. That's how you tried to sell us this roundabout plan.
Teresa, if you can provide me where we have 80% yield rates at signals, I'll be happy to talk through that. I don't recall using an 80% yield rate at traffic signals. I'm not aware of where that was derived from.
Okay, I'll find the document and I'll email that to you.
Okay. I'm going to move on here. So no lowering the speed limit until after you finish the project, question mark, to accommodate all users and adults during the day, should there be RFBs on each leg of the roundabout. So Christy, do you want to talk about the timing of the speed limit? I think you kind of covered it, but.
I didn't quite hear the end of that sentence, but I'll just talk about the timing. So we will be requesting a study from MnDOT, and we're going to do that following the project because it's key that the conditions of the roadway will be what they are in the future. So the roadway being opened with all the new features in place, and then the state the state transportation staff will come in and do their speed study review, make recommendations, and that is what is then reviewed by their central office, and ultimately we would receive that authorization. So if it was done in the middle while construction was going on, it wouldn't give the state officials that are doing the study a clear understanding of what typical traffic is. So it needs to be done following the project completion.
And then the question about accommodating all users, students, adults during the day, should there be RFBs on each leg of the roundabout? You want to cover that one too, Christy?
So I'm trying to find the spreadsheet from before, but yes, so the route for the students, the Safe Route to School plan is for traffic to the pedestrians to come in on the west side of both the intersection of Diffley and Daniel and Diffley and Braddock, because that's where the trail connects to. Those are also the locations where there is traffic from the school, the vehicles coming and making the turns. So based on this being the school crossing location, that's where the school crossing guards are in that designation. The additional elements of the RFB is placed in conjunction with those elements to provide that safe, that crossing condition.
Okay, thank you. Cody, I'm going to pitch this next question to you. The walking path being constructed is unlikely to be appealing to many students due to the extra distance required, and especially those Egan High School students who have lockers just inside the east entrance. Can you remind us what safety measures will be for students and all pedestrians crossing the new expanded Dakota Hills Middle School entrance? Is this one of the locations for a crossing guard?
Had to find my mute button. So we have the new path shown here going from Braddock Trail to the connection of the new access road and the south lot. And so if you follow that path and go along the south side of the parking lot and up the peninsula to the doors at the top of the horseshoe, that path is approximately 400 feet longer than if you went from the corner of Braddock and Diffley up, as Chris is showing here. So that length, if our standard engineering walking speed is 3.5 feet per second. If you use that, it's approximately 2 minutes. Although middle schooler and high schoolers are probably moving a clip faster than those speeds we use for conservative crossing timings and such. The other key component to that is, the existing conditions have them waiting at a stoplight to make that crossing as well. So it's a fairly negligible time, as well as being able to cross at that south lot all-way stop crossing. So the improvements that are happening at the existing south lot entrance, yes, there is a fourth lane being added. So there are 2 lanes coming in and 2 lanes going out. There is a pork chop pedestrian refuge island between the 3rd and 4th lane on the north side to help with the visibility of students making that crossing, as well as making them not have to cross all 4 legs in one crossing. So those are the improvements that are happening at that entrance.
And then what I would add to that is the new trail through the woods, while it is 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes longer, it does provide less congested, less exposure option for students going to the middle school. So they aren't forced to cross that 4-lane, the 2-lane entrance, 2-lane exit. So it does provide them a choice. It provides them an option. It is a bit longer, But as they make their way through the location of where the bike parking is, we think that the students are going to choose to use it, and many are going to find it a better way than having to interact with the lanes of traffic at Braddock Trail.
Yeah, and I would just add, Chris, too, that our redistribution assumptions show that the amount of vehicles entering that parking lot would be, I think, reduced by 60% than what it is today. So you have a few hundred cars less in the peak hour entering through that driveway.
So it lowers the exposure of those who do cross there. Ashley, you can't see I'm making eye contact with you, seeing if you're going to go ahead with the questions.
Yep, I was scrolling down to the next one. The next one is a comment that ends in a question, I guess. To clarify, roundabout speeds and parking lot stop signs are not enforceable. Again, pedestrians will be encountering uncontrollable locations. How is this safe?
So at roundabouts, what is enforceable is yielding for a pedestrian at a crosswalk. So they won't be encountering high-speed traffic without the ability to ticket drivers that aren't yielding, and that can occur. The roundabout speeds, as I mentioned earlier, the curvature that we use for the concrete curb islands and the curb lines are going to be the controlling factor for speeds. And again, not saying that 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000 somebody's not going to try to drive too fast through this thing. We can't control the actions and decisions of every driver. But what we can do is design a system, design an intersection so that the vast majority of drivers intuitively know how to drive through it and what speeds they should drive through.
Next question is, will the centers of the roundabout be flat without any plantings to provide a safe waiting place for students? Sorry, the question jumped on me. For students trying to cross the second lane of traffic. Cody, do you want to take that about what will be the centers of the roundabouts, and that's not where?
Yeah, so I guess I kind of see this as two different areas. So the centers of the roundabouts, there should be 0 pedestrians in that area. And so there will be some plantings in there. The medians on the outside of the roundabouts, as you can see here, that area will be all concrete. So there will be no anything in the way of those pedestrians being able to see vehicles or vehicles being able to see the pedestrians. The only plantings will be in the roundabout themselves.
And this illustration also shows that the median is relatively wide. There were numerous comments about if there are several pedestrians in the area or somebody biking with a trailer behind them, will there be room? And that width is accommodating that pedestrian activity.
The next question was asked and sort of answered in the chat box, but just to read it out, is who will be responsible to clear snow on the new path for the students in the winter? And Polly, thanks for answering that the grounds crew at the high school will be plowing and clearing this path during the winter and all the sidewalks on campus. Next question is, are the wide medians on all legs?
I can take that one, Ashley. So yes, the wide medians are on all 4 legs of both roundabouts. So those medians are at least 12 feet long. And that was to, as Christy mentioned, accommodate either large groups of kids and parents crossing, or somebody that has a bike with a trailer, or a couple of people biking together can all fit within that median safely. And they're all standing side by side. They're 10 feet wide.
Ashley, I found a question here that was sent directly to me. Polly and Trevor, I'll alert you this one. I'm going to pitch your way. In regard to drop off and pickup for the school, will the district be stressing and educating parents that children can be dropped off and picked up along the entire area, not just in front of the main doors? Working at another school with a similar design, some parents refuse to drop off or pick up unless right in front of the doors. Just an idea to keep traffic moving as cars are backed up on the road at my school, while there is plenty of spots past the doors, but parents won't wait there. And Trevor, I know you got plenty to say on that, but you'll have to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Yeah, that points out a very interesting element of human behavior, the need to drop off the child as physically close to the actual door they are going into as possible. And in reality and in all practicality, I want to admit, I doubt that we're going to be changing human nature. We have promoted for years that students be dropped off on the northeast corner of Egan High School by the stadium. At that time of the day when middle school students are being dropped off, the high school is already in session, which means the east side of the high school is actually really very, very calm when we're starting our day 45 minutes later. So I can honestly tell you that every parent that I've spoken to who has followed our advice to drop a child off by the stadium and have them walk around the north end of the school into one of our backside entrances has never gone back to the loop and has been thrilled with the option of being able to drop off their child. Where we run into some challenges are parents who want their child to walk a very, very minimal distance from the door of the car to the entrance to the school. Because if you drop off on the northeast corner over by the stadium, your child's going to walk 150, 200 yards to get to the doorway. And some parents don't like that, and some parents don't have a problem with that. And I doubt that we'll be changing that opinion person to person or family to family. But we have promoted and we will continue to promote that option because it is very, very calm. It's from all the parents that I've spoken to, it is a much better drop off and pickup experience because the east side is just calm at that time of the day, either morning drop off or afternoon pickup.
So Trevor, I'm going to just build a little bit on that explanation because I did not address the non-compliance of the stop signs at the pedestrian crossing within the school parking lot. Again, you know, we can do only so much to guide human behavior and human decision making with the infrastructure that we put here. We had a lot of discussion, a lot of consideration about how that trail comes into the south lot and crossing that access road. Ultimately, we landed on an always stop, all 4 directions, the three motorist directions, and then the bike ped direction will have a stop sign there. So while we can't ensure full compliance of the stop signs, we are asking each and every user that comes to that intersection to come to a complete stop and make a decision based on the right-of-way that's presented to themselves. So again, it's not a perfect solution, but it is the best solution that we can prepare users to make the best decisions as they navigate the school site. There was another question about the plantings in the center of the circle for roundabouts. So, again, you know, as Cody mentioned in that explanation, we are not promoting having pedestrians out in the center of the roundabouts. We're not promoting really anybody to be out in the center of the roundabouts.
No, that wasn't the question, Chris. I'm sorry to interrupt. My question came after that other person's questions. You are correct. There is no walkway to that center island of the roundabout. So that's not my comment. My comment specifically is, I, for one, as a driver, I hate plants and walls or hills on a roundabout. I want to be able to see where I am going at all times, incoming traffic, outgoing traffic. I want to see across that circle. I don't need plants and trees and other things hindering my vision as a driver. So I'm sorry to be cross and cut you off, but mine had nothing to do with the prior question. Mine was specifically, really plantings are not necessary. And if there is plantings, I, as a driver, would prefer that they be short and non-intrusive to the driver so that I can see directly across on that roundabout to the people who are coming in to the opposite direction. That was my comment.
Yeah, I understand your question, and I can explain the rationale for how the center of the islands on typical roundabouts are graded, because a lot of times there is a hill placed there by design, and then in some cases there are plantings put in there. The primary reason that we have an elevated inner circle on roundabouts is to interrupt the driver's eye as they're approaching the roundabouts, so that they don't see the oncoming traffic as they get into the route, as they approach the roundabout. Rather, they see that the roadway condition is changing, and they bring their vehicle to a slower speed. And then as you're choosing your gap within the roundabout, you don't need to see all the way across the roundabout. You need to see a quarter way around. That's the size of the gap that you need in order to enter the roundabout. You don't need to see traffic entering from the opposing side. You need to see it coming from the left. So there is a rationale as to why we elevate those. In most cases, we don't elevate them so high that you can't see anything. And Cody, I'd have to rely on you if what if any plantings we're planning for here. I would imagine that we're probably just doing the elevated ground surface. At least that's how our illustrations show it.
I'll defer that one to John at the city.
Yeah, Chris, I'll jump in here. There's been a late request from our parks maintenance folks to include some plantings in the center island. You know, very tight to the center, still allowing for a good sight distance around the outside of the center island. But they have indicated that they feel that it'd be an amenity to the project to include some plantings in the center island, and they're willing to maintain them. So it's kind of a late change in this.
So that's something our project team needs to vet out, that request. Yeah. As well as this concern.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Absolutely. Sightlines will be considered in the planting. That's for sure.
Well, and my main concern is this is a special area, right? We've already had a student pass away, and it's very personal for me because my daughter went to school with Patrick from kindergarten through 5th grade. So I am very passionate about this project. People should be able to see pedestrians at any time around that circle. Yes, the focus is right in front of you, but it is to also help maintain that you can see the rest of the pedestrians that might be crossing on the other side.
I think your point is well taken, and that's something that we do need to consider with this request is the ability for motorists to see pedestrians in this area.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
A couple more questions here as we're approaching 6:30. Cody, what lighting will be on the new walking path to the school? Is there lighting through the path through the woods?
Yes, there is lighting included in that new trail from Braddock Trail down to the south parking lot. As well, there is pedestrian scale trail lighting along the paths on Diffley Road within the school area. So from approximately just west of the Diffley Marketplace crossing all the way through the Braddock Trail, there will be trail lighting along Diffley Road.
Then the final question before I wrap up the meeting here, there was a question on Braddock Trail South and non-collector road, will the speed limit be reduced to 20 miles per hour? And Russ Mathis, the Public Works Director, answered that question. Not as part of this project. That would need to be considered separately by the city. So with that, I do want to respect everybody's time and wrap up the meeting here at 6:30 as scheduled. I just want to close in saying on behalf of Dakota County and the City of Eagan and the Independent School District 196, just thank you for your questions here tonight and your ongoing involvement in the project. It is safe to say that the stakeholder engagement has guided our decisions and helped shape this project. And we know you're here tonight because you care and you want to continue to be sure things are being completed in a safe and efficient manner. As we approach the start of construction of this project, we know things are about to get messy, about to get really messy out here. But we have a really good solution here for the pedestrian, bicyclists, and motorists in the area. And we have a really good plan to get it constructed efficiently and effectively as possible. It doesn't feel like it tonight, but we know that May through August, the best season of the year in Minnesota, construction season, is right around the corner. And I just ask for continued patience as we get this necessary project completed. So I will leave it at that and thank everybody for joining us again tonight, and watch for additional information through the email chain that announced the meeting, as well as the city, county, and school district websites. So thank you.